Thank you, Jean. Next on the agenda is Mr. Fred Amato, who will be the moderator this evening.
We're going to be dealing with is our City Council Northwest. We have 3 candidates, and if they could all come forward, take a seat. It's a 4-year term, and our first speaker, as we said before, we'll start with the Democrat, then we got the Green Party, then we got a new party that was fourth. So we have Molly Clifford here, we have Dorothy Paige, and we have Perry Johnson. Molly Clifford's running as a Democrat, Working Family, and Independence Party.
Hi, everyone. Thank you very much for having this candidates night again, Claire and the members of the CCA. It's a pleasure to be here. I am Molly Clifford. I am the Democratic candidate for the Northwest City Council seat. I'm also running on the Working Families and Independence Party lines. I grew up in the Northwest District, was born on, well, I was actually born on McGee Avenue, but born and raised on Alameda Street. I am going so far to get this because I have to point out that it was behind Bob Stevenson. So just to keep the Bob Stevenson experience going, but and it is true that no greater role model exists. I currently live in Charlotte. I live over on Stutson Street, and I am a member of the CCA. I currently am a small business owner. I'm a partner in a small training company. We do fire safety and injury prevention, largely for vulnerable populations. So children, older adults, people with disabilities, people in low-income communities. But prior to that, I served 8 years in the administration of Mayors Duffy and Richards. First as the director of the Bureau of NET, the Neighborhood Empowerment Teams, which then was merged into the Department of Neighborhood and Business Development, and then as the Director of Administration for the Rochester Fire Department. I earned the reputation, a city newspaper called me the Swiss Army knife of city government, and that's because I was able to accomplish a lot of things in a lot of different areas. So I wear that term very proudly, and it's one of the things that I really want to bring to the Charlotte community and to the Northwest District as a whole. One of the things that I really enjoyed particularly about being involved with NET was being involved with the neighborhood organizations throughout the city. And as I worked with organizations like CCA, and CCA in particular really, one of their priorities back then was working on sort of the deterioration of the neighborhood. So the vacant properties, the abandoned houses, the commercial strips that were declining in nature. And unfortunately, I think that still remains true, that it is a priority for the Charlotte community. And therefore, it will be one of my priorities as well. We have 17 vacant properties, vacant commercial properties here in Charlotte. Some of them are very high visibility properties, like the TapeCon property, like the VFW post, where we can really take those, turn those around and make them assets to the Charlotte community. So that is one priority for me. The second is to really promote Charlotte as a great place to live, because quite frankly, it is. It's a great place to live. We have a great housing stock. Thank you, Linda. We have a great housing stock. We have a lot of green space. We have access to trails and the water. We have safe neighborhoods. It is a great place to raise a family. And you know, there are a lot of neighborhoods in the city where young families simply cannot afford to buy, but they want a city living experience. We need to make Charlotte that next community of choice for those young families. So that's a second priority for me. And thirdly, I really want to work with Claire and the CCA on funding a charrette process, because this is the time to really work on a positive planning process for the Charlotte community, bringing us all together to talk about what we want Charlotte to be in the future. We will address some of our questions about the development, and I know we'll talk more about that. We will talk about some of the associated issues we have, like parking, like some of the panhandling we face. We can deal with all of those issues through a charrette, bringing us together. I think it's the right time for that. So I look forward to taking your questions, and thanks again for having me.
This candidate, going by party, as I said early on, would be Dorothy Paige, running under the Green Party.
Hello, my name is Dorothy Paige, and I'm running for City Council. I have lived in the Northwest sector this time since 1980. My children attended city schools and graduated from them, and I have spent most of my life working in nonprofits. And I have worked with educational programs, I have worked with AmeriCorps, I worked running a food cupboard, and I worked with the homeless. And over the years, I've had many jobs, but they've always been in nonprofits. And currently, I work with runaway teenagers living in a shelter in downtown Rochester. There are so many issues that affect everybody. So if you have an issue of homelessness, it affects the quality of life of everybody. If you have people who don't have good housing, it affects everybody. If you see homeless people out on the street panhandling, and we can work to have a program that will help them get off the street, that will improve the quality of life for everybody. And I just feel that the city has not done as good a job as it should. The city council neglects some issues to help corporations build big developments, and they're not creating jobs. There are so many issues that city council neglects. And we just have to do a better job. Now, when I first moved here, I was a Democrat. And my parents were Democrats. But then I saw what was going on, the division among the Democratic Party, the infighting, the political patronage jobs that were given to people just by who you know, not what you know. And I just feel that there's so many things that we need to fix. And I work well with Democrats, and I'm friends with a lot of the people on city council. But I also feel that some of the people aren't doing their job, and they're not doing what they should to protect the people in the different neighborhoods. And I also feel that there should be term limits for city council, because we have too many people that have just sat there saying yes to everything. So I just feel we have to do more hard work, and I'm willing to work with anybody, Democrats, Republicans, and I just wish you would vote for me on November 3rd. Thank you.
Our next candidate, he's running, is Perry Johnson. He's running under the Citizens of Northwest Unite. And you may not have heard that party before because it didn't exist, but the Board of Elections and the state law allows you to go out and do an opportunity to ballot, right? Okay. And you put in, you make up your own party, which means you have to go out and get petitions, enough petitions signed, and he's been approved by the board to run as a candidate. So we welcome you tonight, Barry.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, folks. I want to thank the Charlotte Community Association for inviting me. I got a call not too long ago from those folks, and they said, hey, we're going to have a candidates forum. And I did my best to try to return their phone call ASAP. So I thank you folks for getting in touch with me and letting me know about this event tonight. Like the moderator said, my name is Perry Johnson. I was born and raised here in Rochester, New York. I attended number 17 school, which is in the Northwest. I attended Marshall High School, which is in the Northwest. I graduated from Marshall High School and went on to college at the University of Albany. I obtained a bachelor's degree in Africana Studies and a minor in political science. Upon graduating from college, I returned home to Rochester, New York, because you know when you get to college, you can kind of go anywhere you want with the knowledge you got. So I returned home to Rochester, New York, and I began working at St. Joseph's Villa in '96. I do remember you. Yes, sir. I began working at St. Joseph's Villa in 1996. And working at St. Joseph's Villa truly changed my life. I was working with kids who were disadvantaged, who went through some of the same things I went through in terms of poverty and not having someone there to help you with the things that you feel like you need help with. The role models, the help for your family, watching your mom walk up and down the street to get to Wegmans or to just get to the bank downtown or whatever the case may be. And so it changed my life. I said to myself, I need to do better with our community. I want to have a larger and greater impact on my community by becoming a steward of our community's business and becoming involved with city council to have a larger, more positive impact on our community. I'm married to my wife, Charlene. We have 4 children. Love them all to death. I love my wife to death. And I love our family. And I want to create a future that our children won't have to suffer. I want to help our community close the gap of poverty between the haves and the have-nots. I don't think we can eliminate poverty, but I think we can close the gap between the haves and the have-nots. And obviously you hear a lot of talk about economic development. But really with that, we're talking about jobs. People want jobs. There are a lot of people out there who want jobs, and I think that it's the role of government to help create jobs. It's not the role of government to take over that whole entire process. But hey, give the community a leg up. There's something we could be doing a lot better to help people get what they need in order to support themselves. If you can support yourself, why would you want to steal? Why would you want to rob someone? Why would you want to harm someone else to take what they have because you feel like you should have it? We want to change that mindset. I want to help people learn to talk it out instead of acting it out. There's a lot of conversation about violence, drugs, gun control. And I don't believe it's the role of government to control that conversation, but I do believe that government has the ability to create a forum such as this one where people can come together and foster solution-based conversation about how we can work on the issue. Let's build relationships regardless of what party you represent, because we need to have solution-based conversation. Our community is in peril. A lot of people don't want to say it, a lot of people don't see it, but I really feel like I'm the person who can represent our Northwest community in City Council. I believe I can provide new leadership, new ideas, and a new attitude. I don't want to go along just to get along because everyone else is doing it. I want to do what's right for the people who I represent and the people who elect me to office. So I say to you, vote for Perry Johnson, City Council. Thank you.
Questions, and as I said before, we start with the bottom of the list and go forward. Perry will be our first speaker. This is kind of like 3 questions and 1 over here. How exactly would you represent and advocate for the citizens of Charlotte regarding the current and the future plans for the Port of Charlotte? And what do you see as other than the port, what do you see any other big issues facing Charlotte, and how would you address the issue?
Thank you so much. The first part of your question talks about what would I do. Can you say that part again? What would we do?
First of all, how would you represent and advocate for the citizens of Charlotte regarding the current and future plans for the Port of Rochester?
Okay. Well, the first part of that is how would I advocate for them is that try to have more functions like we're having right now. I think the best way to advocate for our community is to find out what the community's thinking, find out what the community's feeling. At this situation, as far as the Port of Charlotte goes and some of the other, I can't think of the word, but some of the other things that are taking place in Charlotte, those things are happening. Some people are kind of aware and kind of well adept at the subject matter, and some people aren't. And I really believe that there's a disconnect between city government and the people of Charlotte, simply because I'm not sure everybody's feeling too good about some of the Port of Charlotte and the new project that they have going on in Charlotte. So one of the things I would like to do, but I don't have all the answers, but I would love to find out what the people are thinking so we can represent you in the way that you'd like me to represent, because the majority rules. If people don't want certain things here, we shouldn't have them here, and we should fight for it.
Yes, I agree that the city council hasn't been listening to the people of Charlotte. But Charlotte is a unique neighborhood because you have a summer life and then you have winter. And things slow down in the winter, and we need to make this a destination even during the winter. And I've been to the Winter Fest and ice sculptures and things like that. But we need to encourage small business here, maybe by local residents. We have a unique area and we need to use it more, but it has to be driven by the people who live here. And high-rise apartment, luxury townhouses and all that stuff doesn't fit in here. And it needs to be more attractive. those are ugly buildings they want to put up, and they're not creating jobs, and it's something that the people of Charlotte do not want. Thank you.
I think what upsets me the most about the port development project is that it did not have to be this way. It absolutely did not have to be this way. How many of you have been down to the College Town development on Mount Hope Avenue? I know Claire pretty much lives there, right? Yeah. Okay, so Mount Hope Avenue, 3 or 4 years ago, very similar to parts of Lake Avenue down here. There were some businesses that were doing okay, some vacant properties, some businesses that were on the edge. When the city and the University of Rochester announced that they wanted to put in the College Town development, there were a lot of people in that neighborhood who were very concerned. What is this going to mean to my properties? What's it going to mean to the traffic? What's it going to mean to our overall neighborhood quality of life? The city, the University of Rochester, the developers, the businesses sat down on a monthly basis to talk about that project from soup to nuts, from the beginning of the project to the end of the project. And you do not hear many complaints from the College Town community, from those neighbors anymore. So what I would say to you is communication, communication, communication. This should never happen again. And as your city council person, I will absolutely keep those lines of communication open. We know that we still need a lot more information from Edgewater, and I will be sure that we get that information and we have that seat at the table. Thank you.
Okay, our next question, and I'm going to combine this into one. It's really 2 questions. In the last 4 years, City Council gave more than $500 million in tax breaks, loans, grants, and other subsidies to the rich developers to build mostly housing. Is this how you would develop our city? And if so, why? But if not, what would you do? And as part of that, I think we can talk about a little of the zombie properties and how you would handle some of that that's going on in the city. And we'll start in the middle with Dorothy. Oh, she's on the end too, but she was in the middle.
Forgot the question. Sorry, give that to me again.
No, there have been billions of dollars.
Oh, yes, I know. Okay. Yeah, they're supporting the people that fund them. The Democratic Party gets a lot of money from corporations that are only intent on making money for themselves. And they don't create the jobs that they promise, and some of them have their tax breaks taken back, and then they go to court to fight to keep them. But we have to do more than just fund projects. Development is very big in Rochester, but it's not creating jobs, and it's not helping with education. They get the tax breaks, the school doesn't get the money to provide a good education for the children. We need to have more independent people working, like creating their own companies, encouraging the students at RIT, U of R, MCC to create their own businesses so they're not dependent on corporations to provide them with work. Thank you.
One of the things that we have to keep in mind is that Rochester is a city that was built for 300,000 people. In 1970, we had 300,000 people who lived here. We now have 208,000 people. We may have grown a little bit, but that is why we have 90,000 plus vacant properties, properties that have been taken down. It would be easy to say that we can deal with these problems, one at a time. We can't. We need to create a city that does well in competition with our surrounding towns. We need businesses to be successful here. We do not need to give money away like it's going out of style. We need to hold developers to the agreements that they come up with through COMIDA or whatever. But all I would say is that I think it's a very simple way to look at things, that we shouldn't give tax breaks to anyone. This city is in dire financial stress. We need to do everything we can to make it successful.
Okay. One part of the question question was about how will you develop the city of Rochester. Well, when you think about business development and some of the companies that are, the city council have provided tax breaks to, I think as far as the Northwest goes, I want to say this, as far as the Northwest goes, what does it take for companies to be attracted to our part of the city? And this is what I mean by having new ideas. We're constantly having conversation about the same thing in the same manner and come up with the same solution. Now, we would like to, my idea is to, let's figure out what does it take for companies to come and see us? What does it take for a company to want to establish itself in our Northwest area? Because we know if a company like the Photonics, they were haggling and fighting over different spaces to where the place is going to be. Why didn't we fight for that? We have plenty of spaces. There's plenty of empty spaces, plenty of empty buildings and sectors are part of in the Northwest quadrant that could easily fit the Photonics system. And why don't we fight for those type of things? And I'd like to see what does it take for us to be attractive to companies that want to come and build in our area to help produce jobs and help to produce viability in economics.
Our next question is for council candidates. How will you work to ensure equity and support across different neighborhoods for funding, for projects and policing? And one of the things you have, and you have a lot of this in different areas, I know Lyle Avenue is one of them that was mentioned here. You have like prostitution going on, and you have other crimes going on in the area. How would you work across all different lines to help stop a lot of that which is going on? Some areas the crime is more than others, but I'll ask Molly to start this time.
That is an excellent question because the Northwest District is made up of so many different kinds of neighborhoods with different challenges and different opportunities that you almost do have to look at it neighborhood by neighborhood. The problems of Josiana are very different from the problems of Charlotte. I think it takes a lot of hard work. I think it takes a lot of data. We really need to look at what the problems are, what the strengths are, and develop almost an individual plan for the 5 neighborhoods that make up the Northwest quadrant. I think it takes a commitment to working with neighborhood organizations. I go to all of the neighborhood meetings and have been over the past couple of years, so I think I have a good start there, and it involves working with those neighborhood groups and residents to help us prioritize what the problems are that we should be working on. So that's what I would continue to do.
I live in the J Street area. I live in Dutchtown. I've owned a house there for 25 years. It's a struggling neighborhood. I attend the weekly meetings, but I'm concerned about all areas of the city. And even before I ran for office, I was concerned about Charlotte. I'm concerned about anything that impacts the quality of life for anybody in any part of the city. And I'm willing to work in different quadrants to liaison with other people and just help the whole area of the city be improved. And I see it as a full-time job. I don't see it as a part-time job. I want to be out there all the time working with all different areas, with all different people to make the quality of life of Rochester better. Thank you.
Some of the things like I talked about earlier on, I believe that we have to begin to build relationships among our neighbors, the community associations that are involved in some of the neighborhoods, and start building a better relationship with the police department to find out how we're going to deal with crime in our neighborhoods, because it's not just violent crime that's out there. It's not just people selling drugs and that kind of thing. There are people breaking in other people's houses, stealing their cars and damaging their property. So we need to find out, we need to talk with the police department, have more in-depth conversations with the police department about what are their strategies to help keep our neighborhoods safe. One of the things also too, I want to try to put pressure on deadbeat landlords. There are a lot of deadbeat landlords who don't take care of their property. And by those folks not taking care of their property, it brings down the property value of everyone on the street or in that neighborhood. So we need to put more pressure on. I think it would work for city council if we put more pressure on those deadbeat landlords, find them more money or whatever it takes to get those folks to start taking care of their property and let people, let people have a better way of life.
Our last question for the city council is, who is endorsing you, and are there any special interest groups, and who are those special interest groups that are supporting you? And we'll ask Harry to be the first speaker.
Okay, I love this question. I don't have to write this one down. No, I do not have to write this question down. There's no one endorsing me. No one. My family endorses me. My neighbors endorse me. There's no one adding to my war chest. There's no one I'm affiliated with. There's no political elitist that I would like to get to know, that I can get some experience from. I'm just a regular Joe who's concerned about his community, who wants to help somehow make a positive impact on this community. There's no one endorsing me. It doesn't take an endorsement to do that. I don't have another agenda that supersedes helping people, being helpful to people, being available to people, and being responsible enough to be accountable for whatever it is. Don't lie about it. Don't sidestep the question, hey, did you do it, or you didn't do it? I'm here to represent you. This is what you're asking me to do. I'm going to represent you in the best way possible.
I have friends who support me. I have friends who make copies for me, who do artwork, my campaign manager over there. And today I had to print out some brochures, so my sister gave me $20. And I went downtown and I copied it, and they're on the back table if you want some. So, I'm very grassroots. I work with everybody. I recycle things. I make things myself. I don't take money from corporations. I don't take money from developers. And I'm just working independently and trying to make this city a better place. And I'm a low-budget kind of person, so I don't have to take money from people who I have to pay back later. Thank you.
I guess you could say I've got endorsed by all those organizations that didn't endorse those two. But I guess I would say that endorsements don't just come because somebody thinks they're going to get something from you. Endorsements are a process by which you talk about your experience, you talk about your hopes for the future, you talk about your skills, you talk about the things you want to do for your community. And organizations have a choice on whether to support you or not. I certainly have a large group of grassroots volunteers who helped me win the Democratic primary, who are friends and neighbors, and their support means more to me than anybody else. So I'm proud of the endorsements that I've had, and I think that one of the things that people know about me is that whether you gave me a check or whether you came to an event, I will call you back. People in this room know that, from Tommy Borelli to the Rosatis. It does not matter. I will be available to you. My phone number's on all of my literature, and as is my email. So thank you.
That's it for the questions for our City Council Northwest. And if you're wondering where that district is, that we do have maps up there on the wall. And the City Council is the second one from the right there, and you can see what an area it goes. It's past Lyle Avenue. What's the southern district of Southern Lyle? Does anybody remember? What is it?
490 West.
490. Mount Boulevard area. Okay.
West Main.
So if you're interested to really know where you live, you can find it on the map. We also have for the county legislator districts that are here today. That's going to be our next group of candidates. And if I can ask for our county legislative candidates to come up here, I'm going to go through the whole list, at least to let you know that we did invite them. In the 7th district, we have Brian Marinetti. He's running on the Republican, Conservative, and Independent line, and he's unopposed. but he could not be here today. I don't see him here. He stayed till the end, didn't he? Okay. Okay. In the 26th district, we have 3 candidates. 2 of them are here. You can take a seat.